That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over Joint Base Lewis McChord, casting long shadows across the dew-kissed parade ground. Master Chief Petty Officer Elena Vasquez stood at attention, her boots planted firmly in the damp grass, the faint scent of pine from the surrounding evergreens mixing with the sharp tang of gun oil from the armory nearby. At her side, Rex, her Belgian Malinois K9 partner, sat rigid, his black mask alert, ears pricked forward as if attuned to the very rhythm of the base. The air hummed with the low chatter of radios and the distant thump of rotors from a Black Hawk lifting off for morning patrols. Vasquez had been with Naval Special Warfare for 12 years, a rarity as one of the few female SEAL handlers in the program. Her uniform, crisp utilities with the trident pin glinting on her collar, spoke of discipline earned through endless qualifications, halo jumps, underwater demolitions, and the quiet precision of K9 integration training. Rex, a 7-year-old rescue from a war-torn forward operating base in Afghanistan, was more than a tool. He was her shadow, her second set of senses. Their bond had formed in the dust of Helmand Province, where Rex's nose had sniffed out an IED that saved her squad during a night raid. Now, back stateside, they trained as one, inseparable under the chain of command. "Platoon, attention!" The command barked from Lieutenant Commander Harlan Reyes, the unit's executive officer, his voice cutting through the morning mist like a knife. Reyes was a lifer, broad-shouldered and unyielding, with a chest full of ribbons from deployments in Iraq and Syria. He paced the line of handlers and their dogs, his polished boots clicking against the concrete edge of the field. 20 SEALs and their K9s mirrored Vasquez's posture. 20 sets of eyes forward, hands at sides, the dogs' leashes taut but silent. This was EOD Familiarization Day, a routine drill to sharpen detection skills for urban threat simulations. No live ordnance, just mock sense and controlled scenarios, but the stakes felt real in the disciplined hush. Vasquez felt Rex's subtle shift beside her, his flank brushing her leg, a silent check-in. She didn't acknowledge it. Such gestures were unspoken in their world. The base routine was ironclad. Reveille at 0500, PT runs through the fog-shrouded trails, then these sessions to maintain readiness. Reyes stopped before her, his gaze appraising. "Vasquez, your team's up first. Perimeter sweep simulation. Rex leads, you follow. Report any anomalies to me directly." "Aye, sir," she replied, her voice steady, snapping a salute that Reyes returned with a curt nod. The chain of command was the spine of their operations. Orders flowed down, compliance flowed up. Questioning wasn't protocol, it was a fracture. As the platoon dispersed to their stations, Vasquez clipped Rex's lead and moved toward the mock urban site, a cluster of shipping containers rigged to mimic a civilian outpost, complete with chain-link fencing and scattered debris. The wind picked up, carrying the salty bite of the Puget Sound from a few miles away, rustling the leaves overhead. They started the drill at 6:30 sharp. Rex moved with mechanical precision, nose low to the ground, weaving through the simulated alleyways. Vasquez kept pace, her M4 slung across her chest, eyes scanning for threats, human or otherwise. "Easy, boy," she murmured under her breath, more for her own rhythm than command. Rex paused at a corner, sniffing intently at a pile of faux rubble, then signaled clear with a single tail flick. False positive on a planted decoy scent. Standard procedure. Reyes observed from a raised platform, stopwatch in hand, his radio crackling with updates from other teams. By 0700, the exercise shifted to off-site integration, a joint op with base security near the family housing area. The playground there doubled as a low-threat perimeter for K9 familiarization, its swings and slides cordoned off for the morning. Vasquez and Rex approached on foot, the gravel path crunching under their boots. Children's laughter echoed faintly from the distant elementary school, a reminder of the base's dual life, warriors by day, families by night. Reyes had briefed it as routine. Sweep for simulated hazards. Report back by 0800. Eyes open, Vasquez. Civilian overlap means zero tolerance for errors. As they circled the playground's edge, Rex's demeanor changed. His body stiffened, hackles rising subtly along his spine. Vasquez halted, scanning the area, empty swings swaying in the breeze, a sandbox undisturbed. But Rex pulled toward the parking lot adjacent, nose questing the air. "What is it?" she whispered, loosening the lead just enough. He led her to a fresh tire track in the soft dirt beside a curb, imprinted deeply, as if from a vehicle that had braked hard. No base traffic used this route. It was restricted to authorized personnel. Rex sat, pointing, his trained alert for anomaly. Vasquez knelt, gloved hand hovering over the track. It wasn't part of the drill. The scents were all mock, placed elsewhere. The mark was real, recent, leading toward a chain-link gap where the fence met the woods. Her pulse quickened, but she kept her breathing even. Protocol demanded she call it in, yet something nagged, an irregularity in the depth, like deliberate evasion. "Control, this is Vasquez. Anomalous track at Grid Echo 7. Request confirmation." Her radio transmission was clipped, professional. Reyes's voice crackled back. "Negative. That's civilian turf. Stand down and return to primary." But Rex whined low, insistent, his eyes locking on hers. Vasquez hesitated, the weight of the order pressing against the loyalty etched into every joint exercise they'd run. Following protocol meant clearing the site. Ignoring it could mean overlooking a breach. The playground loomed quiet behind her, a symbol of the lives intertwined with their duty. In that suspended moment, with the sun climbing higher and the base awakening around them, Vasquez faced the first fracture. Obey the chain, or trust the bond that had saved her life before. The tire track gleamed faintly with morning dew, silent witness to whatever had paused there minutes earlier. Vasquez straightened, hand on Rex's head, a rare, fleeting touch. The drill was over. Something real had begun. Vasquez's fingers tightened on the radio handset, the plastic warm against her palm from the morning chill. Reyes's command echoed in her earpiece. "Stand down, Vasquez. That's an order. Return to primary site immediately." The words were crisp, laced with the impatience of a man who brooked no deviation. She glanced at Rex, his alert posture unwavering, dark eyes fixed on the tire track as if it held the key to an unspoken threat. The Belgian Malinois didn't flinch at the radio static. He waited for her, as always, his breath steady in the cooling air. She keyed the mic. "Copy. Control. Returning." The response was automatic, drilled into her from years of quals and ops where hesitation could cost lives. But as she turned Rex away from the track, his low whine pulled at her resolve, a sound reserved for true alerts, not decoys. The playground's chain-link fence rattled softly in the breeze, its shadows stretching toward the woods beyond. Base security protocols were clear. Anomalies in family areas triggered immediate escalation, yet Reyes had dismissed it outright. "Civilian turf," he'd said. Vasquez clipped the lead shorter and started back along the gravel path, her boots grinding against the stones, each step measured to mask the unease coiling in her gut. By 0730, they rejoined the platoon at the mock urban site. Reyes stood on the platform, arms crossed, his expression unreadable under the brim of his cap. The other handlers milled about, securing gear and logging false positives from their sweeps. Rex sat at Vasquez's heel, but his ears flicked toward the parking lot direction, a subtle reminder of what they'd left behind. "Report!" Reyes demanded as she approached, his voice low enough not to carry to the team. "Grid Echo 7 clear on primary sense, sir. Rex flagged the track, non-drill anomaly. Depth suggests recent heavy vehicle, possibly off-route. Vasquez kept her tone neutral, eyes on his shoulder boards, the gold anchors catching the rising sun. She didn't elaborate. Facts first, interpretation second. Reyes's jaw tightened, a muscle working under his stubbled skin. I heard it's nothing. Stray maintenance truck, probably. Base MP's got it logged. Focus on the exercise. Aye, sir. She saluted, but the dismissal sat wrong. Maintenance vehicles didn't break into restricted dirt. They stuck to paved lanes, and Rex didn't false alert, not after Helmand, where his nose had pierced the chaos to save 8 souls. As the platoon reformed for the next rotation, close quarters detection in the containers, Vasquez positioned Rex at the lead, her mind replaying the track's imprint. Wide treads, asymmetrical wear, like something evading pursuit. The drill intensified under the midday haze. Containers loomed like urban canyons, their metal walls radiating heat that mixed with the scent of oiled hinges and faint diesel from idling Humvees. Vasquez and Rex navigated a simulated breach, Rex low-crawling under a false door, nose questing for mock explosive residue. "Clear left," she called to the shadow team behind, her voice echoing off the steel. Reyes observed from afar, radio in hand, coordinating with base command. But midway through, a crackle interrupted. "All teams hold position. MP inbound to family housing. Possible perimeter breach." Vasquez froze mid-stride, Rex pausing with her, his hackles lifting again. The words hung in the humid air, radios buzzing across the platoon. Reyes's voice cut in. "Negative on breach. Routine check. Resume drill." But the tension rippled through the handlers, eyes exchanging glances, dogs sensing the shift. Vasquez's pulse thrummed. She'd flagged it first, and now it was escalating without credit or follow-through. At 1100, the exercise wrapped, the platoon stacked gear in the armory, the clank of metal lockers punctuating debriefs. Vasquez logged Rex's alerts in the digital manifest, her gloved fingers tapping the screen with precision. Anomaly at Echo 7, tire track, 02 hours old, K9 positive. She hit submit, then unclipped Rex's harness, running a quick pat-down for ticks from the wooded edge. His fur was warm, damp from exertion, and he leaned into her touch. A rare allowance in public, Reyes approached as the team dispersed to chow. "Vasquez, a word." His tone was even, but the platform's shadow hid the furrow in his brow. They stepped aside near the pine line, the evergreens whispering in the wind off the sound. "That track, it's being handled. MP found a civilian sedan, lost GPS signal, no threat. You did right calling it, but don't push. Chain's clear, my call." She nodded, meeting his gaze levelly. "Understood, sir. Rex doesn't err on anomalies." It wasn't defiance, just fact. Her role as handler demanded candor on K9 reads. Reyes exhaled, glancing toward the family housing silhouette on the horizon. "I know your record. Helmand was solid, but this is stateside. Rules differ. Obey the flow, Master Chief. Careers bend on it." The warning lingered as she led Rex to the kennels, the base's midday hum enveloping them. Distant shouts from PT fields, the whine of a fuel truck. Inside the climate-controlled bays, Rex settled on his mat, tail thumping once in contentment. Vasquez filled his bowl with kibble, the dry rattle grounding her. But as she reviewed the manifest on her tablet, a ping arrived, MP report addendum. The sedan was unregistered, driver uncooperative. Track led to a gap in the fence, unsecured for weeks, per maintenance logs. Her stomach tightened. Reyes had downplayed it, but the pieces didn't align. Protocol urged her to log a follow-up. Loyalty to the team urged silence. Rex watched her, head tilted, as if sensing the fracture widening. Outside, the sun peaked, casting harsh light on the parade ground where the morning's routine had cracked. Vasquez pocketed the tablet, hand resting on Rex's collar. The bond between them was forged in silence, unbreakable, yet the chain of command demanded she test it now. By evening stand down, whispers circulated in the mess hall. The playground sweep had uncovered a potential tail on base traffic. Vasquez ate her MRE in quiet, fork-scraping tin, while handlers nodded her way. Reyes's eyes met hers across the tables, a silent appraisal. The defiance hadn't been spoken, but it echoed in Rex's alert, rippling toward whatever lay beyond the fence. In the rigid world of ranks and orders, one dog's nose had begun to unravel the unseen. The fluorescent lights of the kennel block buzzed faintly overhead, casting a sterile glow on the rows of stainless steel bays. Vasquez locked Rex's enclosure at 2,000 hours, the click of the latch echoing down the corridor like a final punctuation to the day's unrest. Outside, the base settled into evening rhythm. Floodlights humming to life along the perimeter, the distant bark of a sentry dog mirroring Rex's earlier alert. She shouldered her pack and headed to quarters, the gravel path crunching under her boots. But sleep evaded her. The MP addendum replayed in her mind, the unregistered sedan, the fence gap logged as pending repair for 3 weeks. Reyes's dismissal felt like a patch over a leak, not a seal. At 400 Reveille, the platoon assembled in the dim pre-dawn haze, steam rising from coffee mugs clutched in gloved hands. Vasquez stood at her position, Rex at heel, his coat still carrying the faint earthiness from yesterday's sweep. The air was crisp, laced with the scent of wet pine and jet fuel from the airstrip. Lieutenant Commander Reyes conducted the morning brief from the podium, his voice steady over the PA. Overnight logs clean, focus today. Joint EOD with MPs on urban containment. Vasquez, your team's on secondary perimeter, standard protocol. She acknowledged with a nod, but as the formation broke, she caught Petty Officer Second Class Marco Hale's eye. Hale, a wiry handler with a scar across his knuckles from a training mishap in Coronado, had been on the playground detail rotation last month. They fell in step toward the armory, Rex and Hale's shepherd Luna, trotting parallel. "Heard about your track," Hale muttered, keeping his volume low, eyes on the path. MPs pulled footage from the school cam. Sedan idled there 1400 yesterday, civilian plates, but no match in the system. Vasquez's stride didn't falter, but her grip tightened on Rex's lead. Reyes called it routine. "You see anything off?" Hale glanced over his shoulder, the base's sodium lamps flickering as a patrol truck rumbled past. "Fence gap's been open since the storm. Kids use it as a shortcut to the woods, but that car braked like it was scoping." Luna flagged a similar scent last week. Faint chem, dismissed as fertilizer runoff. His words hung, laced with the unspoken weight of chain-of-command loyalty. Questioning superiors wasn't drilled. It was a risk to quals and deployments. By 0600, the joint exercise commenced at the edge of family housing, MPs in tack vests, coordinating with SEAL handlers. The site was cordoned, yellow tape fluttering around the playground, Humvees idling with engines purring low. Vasquez and Rex took the secondary sweep, skirting the parking lot where the tire track had etched its mark. The dirt was drier now, the imprint faded but traceable, leading precisely to the fence breach. Rex's nose dropped immediately, body coiling as he traced the path, halting at the chain-link tear, jagged edges where wire cutters had worked clean. "Alert!" Vasquez reported into her radio, voice clipped for the log. "Secondary anomaly at fence line. K9 positive on residual trace." She knelt, scanning the underbrush. Snapped twigs, a scuff of boot print in the mud, size 10 at least. Not a child's. Protocol surged, escalate to Reyes, but Hale's intel echoed. This wasn't isolated, it was a pattern buried under routine. Reyes's response crackled back. "Vasquez, disengage. MPs have primary. Return to formation." The order was sharper now, threaded with warning. She straightened, but Rex pulled against the lead, whining low, a sound that cut through the morning quiet like a blade. Across the tape, two MPs paused their grid search. Untilting his head toward the noise, Vasquez unclipped the lead partially, allowing Rex a few yards into the gap. He quartered the ground methodically, nose sifting leaf litter, then sat pointed at a discarded glove, latex, medical grade, snagged on a root. The MPs approached, boots thudding on the grass. "What's the read, Master Chief?" The lead MP, Sergeant Kowalski, asked. His notepad flipped open. Vasquez relayed the details. Track, fence, glove. Kowalski's brow furrowed under his helmet. "Glove's not ours. Chemtrace could be pharma residue. Off-base clinic runs these routes sometimes, but with the sedan..." He trailed off as Reyes strode up, uniform impeccable, face a mask of controlled authority. "Status?" Reyes demanded, eyes locking on Vasquez. The group formed a loose circle, radios silent, the hum of a distant helo underscoring the tension. Kowalski briefed succinctly, but Reyes cut in. "Preliminary. No escalation without command review. Vasquez, leash up and pull back." She hesitated, the fraction of a second stretching. Rex's alert was textbook, undeniable. "Sir." Rex's red confirms the track's path. Gloves anomalous. Could tie to the vehicle. Her words were measured, professional, but they landed like a challenge in the open air. Kowalski shifted, glancing between them, while Hale lingered at the perimeter, Luna alert beside him. Reyes's gaze hardened, the gold of his rank pins catching the first sunlight. "I gave an order, Master Chief. Obey it." The words were quiet, but they carried the weight of the platoon, watching from afar. Handlers pausing mid-drill, dogs sensing the standoff. Vasquez clipped the lead, but not before Rex nosed the glove once more, dislodging a faint white powder that dusted the earth. Kowalski knelt to bag it, his glove snapping. "This needs lab," he said, voice neutral. The moment fractured the morning's order. Witnesses now, not just whispers. Vasquez led Rex back, her salute to Reyes crisp but lingering, a silent acknowledgement of the line crossed. The platoon resumed, but the air thickened with unspoken questions, the fence gap yawning like an accusation. In the rigid cadence of boots and commands, one handler's trust in her K9 had forced the unseen into view, testing the chain that bound them all. As the sun crested the tree line, casting long shadows over the cordon, the powder's residue gleamed faintly, a quiet provocation against the discipline that defined their world. Vasquez felt the ripple. Her career, the unit's trust, now hinged on what came next. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The lab results arrived by midday, sealed in a manila envelope that Kowalski handed off during the platoon's lunch rotation. Vasquez sat on a bench outside the armory, Rex at her feet, gnawing a frozen Kong, the ice cracking softly under his teeth. The base's midday bustle hummed around them, MPs directing traffic near the gate. The low growl of a deuce-and-a-half hauling supplies toward the motor pool. She slit the envelope with her thumbnail, unfolding the report under the shade of a camouflaged awning. The powder from the glove, trace fentanyl mixed with adhesive residue, consistent with packaging tape, not medical waste. Her breath caught, a quiet intake masked by the wind rustling the pines. This wasn't runoff or clinic runoff. It pointed to illicit transport, right at the edge of family housing. Rex lifted his head, sensing the shift in her posture, his ears perking as if the paper held a scent he could track. Vasquez folded the document precisely, tucking it into her cargo pocket. Protocol for narcotics traces on base. Immediate chain escalation to JAG and base command. But Reyes's order echoed. Disengage. Obey the flow. She stood, clipping Rex's lead, and moved toward the MP station, the gravel shifting under her boots like unsettled ground. Kowalski met her at the door, his uniform sleeves rolled to the elbows, sweat beading on his forehead from the humid air. "Read it?" he asked, voice low, gesturing her inside. The office smelled of stale coffee and printer ink, fluorescent tubes flickering overhead. Vasquez nodded, sliding the report across the scarred desk. Confirms anomaly. Ties to the sedan. Potential trafficking vector through the fence gap. Kowalski scanned the lines, his pen tapping a steady rhythm. Yeah, lab flagged it high priority, but command's holding pattern. Reyes briefed the CO at 1000. They're calling it preliminary until forensics on the glove. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the weight of her sidearm a familiar press against her hip. Rex's alert was primary. If it's moving product near kids. The words trailed, unspoken implications hanging in the confined space. Kowalski met her gaze, his eyes steady under the brim of his cap. I get it, Master Chief, but your SEAL, we're MPs. Your lane's detection, ours is pursuit. Reyes pulled strings, says it'll spook the unit if we jump without dots connected. The dismissal mirrored yesterday's, but now with lab ink on it. Vasquez's jaw set, a muscle tightening as she processed the layering. Protect the base or shield the chain from scrutiny. Outside, Rex whined through the screen door, pawing at the mesh, a reminder of the bond that had flagged it first. She thanked Kowalski with a nod and exited, the door's pneumatic hiss underscoring her steps back to the kennels. The path wound past the playground, now cleared of tape but shadowed by the fence's jagged tear, a silent scar in the chain link. By 1400, the platoon reconvened for afternoon quals. K9 obedience drills in the open field, the grass clipped short and dewy from an earlier sprinkler cycle. Reyes paced the line, stopwatch in hand, his commands barking sharp over the wind. Handlers, advance! Dogs, heel and sit! On my mark! Vasquez positioned Rex at the 10-yard mark, her whistle ready, but her focus splintered. Hale sidled up during a water break, Luna lapping from a collapsible bowl nearby. Heard the lab ping. Fentanyl? That's no stray car. She kept her eyes on the field, where a junior handler struggled with his lab's recall. Logged it. Reyes is containing. Hale's scoff was quiet, almost lost in the dog's panting. Containing or covering? Fence logs got his signature, approved the delay on repairs last month. Budget cuts, he said. The revelation landed like a misfired round, imprecise but piercing. Reyes, the unyielding XO, green-lighting vulnerabilities. Vasquez's hand absently stroked Rex's flank, the dog's warmth grounding her. Loyalty to the team meant silence. Conscience meant probing the fracture. The drill paused at 15:30 when Base Command's PA crackled. All personnel, mandatory stand down. Briefing in the auditorium at 1600, security matter. Whispers rippled through the formation, like wind through ranks, handlers exchanging glances as they secured leashes. Vasquez led Rex toward the assembly hall, the building's concrete facade looming under the afternoon sun, its windows reflecting the parade ground's empty expanse. Inside, the air was cool and recirculated. Rows of folding chairs filled with SEALs, MPs, and support staff, over 100 faces turned toward the stage. Captain Ellis, the base commander, took the podium, his uniform starched, voice amplified and even. This morning's joint op uncovered a potential security lapse at family housing perimeter. Preliminary findings suggest unauthorized access, vehicle incursion, possible contraband residue. No immediate threat, but we're initiating a full review. Lieutenant Commander Reyes will oversee. Reports to me direct. Reyes stood to Ellis's right, posture rigid, his nod acknowledging the assignment. Vasquez sat in the third row. Rex curled at her feet under the seat, his presence a subtle anchor. The captain's words skirted the details. No mention of fentanyl. No credit to K9 alerts, but the public framing shifted it, from dismissed anomaly to institutional concern. As the briefing dispersed, Reyes caught her in the corridor, the echo of boots fading behind them. Vasquez, your log initiated this. Good work, but keep it tight. No side channels. His tone was measured, eyes appraising under the hallway's harsh lights. She saluted, holding his gaze. "Aye, sir." Rex's red was clear, if the gaps exploited. Reyes cut her off with a raised hand, the gesture authoritative yet weary. "It's handled. Your input's valued, but the chain decides escalation. Understood." Understood. The word tasted like gravel, but she delivered it crisp. As he walked away, Hale fell in beside her, voice a murmur. That was reckoning. Your dog's nose put it on the map. The corridor emptied, leaving the hum of ventilation and Rex's soft breathing. Vasquez knelt to reclip his lead, her fingers lingering on the leather, a silent pact amid the mounting pressure. The lab report burned in her pocket, a weight pulling against obedience. Careers bent on protocol, but lives, those of the families beyond the fence, demanded more. By evening, as the sun dipped toward the sound, casting orange streaks across the base, Vasquez reviewed the briefing notes in her quarters. The small room smelled of boot polish and Rex's blanket. The dog sprawled on his bed, watchful. A ping on her secure tablet, anonymous base chat, whispers of the sedan's plates tracing to an off-base warehouse, rumors of insider leaks. She deleted it, but the seed took root. The moral tension coiled tighter. Report the full trace, risk insubordination, stay silent, let the lapse fester. Rex's eyes met hers in the dim light, unwavering trust in the quiet room. Outside, the perimeter lights flickered on, illuminating the fence line in the distance, where shadows hid what one alert had begun to expose. In the disciplined hush of stand down, Vasquez traced the tire track's path in her mind, the powder's ghost lingering like an unanswered command. The institution stirred, but the true test lay in the choices yet to come, where loyalty to a dog outweighed the fear of fracture. The first rays of dawn filtered through the blinds of Vasquez's quarters, painting faint stripes across the concrete floor. She rose at 0500, the routine as automatic as breathing. Make the rack, fill Rex's bowl with measured kibble, the dry pellets clinking against stainless steel. The dog stirred, stretching with a low huff, his nails clicking softly as he padded to her side. Outside, the bass stirred, reveille horns blaring distant, the rhythmic thud of PT formations echoing from the fields. Vasquez clipped on her utilities, the fabric crisp against her skin, and reviewed the overnight logs on her tablet. No updates from command. The briefing's momentum had stalled, like a helo idling before liftoff. By 0600, the platoon assembled at the armory, dew still clinging to the grass, the air sharp with the scent of ocean mist rolling in from the sound. Reyes conducted roll call, his voice carrying over the line of handlers and their K9s, leashes taut in gloved hands. Standard quals today, detection circuits and handler sync. Vasquez, you're on lead rotation, fence perimeter integration with MPs. The assignment hit like a subtle prod, tying her directly to the unresolved breach. She acknowledged, with a salute, Rex sitting alert beside her, his black coat absorbing the morning light. Hale nodded from 2 positions down, Luna's ears flicking as if sharing the undercurrent. The joint circuit began at 0700, cordons re-established around the family housing edge. Yellow tape fluttered anew along the fence line. MPs in formation with detection gear slung low. Vasquez and Rex took point on the secondary sweep, skirting the playground's gravel paths, the swings motionless in the still air. The tire track had been photographed and filled, but Rex's nose dropped instinctively, questing the disturbed earth. He paused at the chain-link tear, body rigid, a faint whine escaping as he traced the same path to the glove's site, now marked with evidence cones. The powder long bagged, but its echo lingering in the soil. Alert confirmed, Vasquez radioed, her voice steady over the static. Residual trace at breach point, recommend expanded grid. Kowalski's response came quick from the primary team. Copy. Labs rushing the glove forensics, prelim ties to synthetic opioid processing. Sedan's plates pinged a shell company warehouse district. The words crackled through her earpiece, pulling the anomaly into sharper focus. Trafficking wasn't abstract. It was a vector inches from children's laughter, exploiting the base's blind spots. Reyes's voice overlaid, "Vasquez, maintain circuit. No deviations. MP's lead pursuit." She leashed Rex tighter, but the dog's pull was insistent, leading her toward the wood's underbrush. There, half buried in leaf litter, Rex sat pointed at a fresh depression. Another boot print, mirroring the first, paired with a snapped branch oozing sap. Vasquez knelt, gloved hand outlining the mark without disturbing it. Size 10, deep tread, recent enough for the soil to hold form. Secondary anomaly, she transmitted. Foot impression, 20 meters ingress, K9 positive. The platoon paused mid-rotation, handlers glancing her way, the hum of idling vehicles underscoring the halt. Reyes arrived minutes later, striding through the tape with purposeful steps, his boots leaving faint imprints in the grass. Kowalski flanked him, notepad in hand, while Hale held position at the perimeter, Luna mirroring Rex's tension. "Report fully," Reyes ordered, eyes scanning the site, the fence's jagged edge casting irregular shadows. Vasquez stood, gesturing to the print. Rex traced from the track. Matches initial scuff. "Deliberate entry, sir. With the lab on fentanyl, this suggests reconnaissance or drop prep." Her words were factual, delivered without inflection, but they hung in the open air, witnesses forming. 3 MPs, Hale, and a junior handler logging from afar. Reyes's expression remained neutral, but his hand rested on his radio, thumb tapping the side. "Appreciated, Master Chief, but commands vectoring this through JAG. Your role's detection, escalation's mine." Kowalski interjected quietly, "Sir, the print's viable if it's patterned access." Reyes shot him a look, sharp as a salute. "Noted, Sergeant. Pull samples and stand by for orders." The exchange crackled with restraint, the chain asserting itself amid the growing evidence. Vasquez met Reyes's gaze, her posture unyielding. "Rex's alerts align, sir. Protocol 4 to 12. Handler corroboration on multiples warrants immediate lockdown." The citation landed precise, drawn from the K9 manual she'd memorized in quals. Reyes's jaw tightened, the gold of his collar devices catching the climbing sun. "You're pushing protocol, Vasquez. Obey the directive. Return to circuit." But Kowalski was already kneeling, bagging the print site, his movements methodical under the scrutiny. Hale shifted closer, voice low to Vasquez. "That's public now. Logs will show the chain hesitated." The words were a whisper, but they amplified the standoff. Radio silent as the team watched from the cordon line. By 0900, the circuit resumed, but the fracture widened. Base Command issued a soft lockdown, family housing advisories via email, patrols doubled without fanfare. Vasquez led Rex through the final quadrant, her mind mapping the ingress. Sedan idles, boot scouts the gap, glove drops residue. It wasn't random, it was probing, testing the base's seams under Reyes's delayed repairs. In the armory debrief at 1100, the room thick with the scent of gun oil and sweat-soaked gear, Reyes addressed the platoon. "Today's finds advance the review. Credit to detection teams. K9 integration held true." His nod toward Vasquez was brief, but it carried weight, the handlers murmuring approval as they stowed equipment. Yet the concession felt tactical, not transformative. As the group dispersed to chow, Ellis, the captain, summoned Vasquez to his office, a squat building near the command post, its walls lined with framed citations and maps pinned under glass. The air inside was cool, recirculated, with the faint hum of a server rack in the corner. Ellis sat behind a polished desk, sleeves rolled, a stack of reports before him. "Master Chief, sit." Rex settled at her feet, alert to the room's confines. Your logs initiated this. Fentanyl trace near housing? That's a red line. Reyes briefed me. Fence delay was oversight. Budget realloc to ops training. But your persistence flagged it. Vasquez remained standing, hands at sides. Sir, Rex's red was primary. Anomalies compounded. Track. Glove. Print. If exploited. Ellis leaned forward, fingers steepled. It won't be. JAG's looping in federal task force, warehouse raid pending, but this stays internal until then. No media, no leaks. Your career's solid, but questioning the XO publicly fractures unit cohesion. The warning was paternal, laced with the institution's gravity. She nodded. Understood, sir. Loyalty to the team first. Dismissed at 1200, Vasquez exited into the midday glare, Rex trotting close. The base pulsed with adjusted rhythm, extra sentries at gates, the whine of drones overhead for aerial sweeps. Hale caught her near the kennels, Luna in tow. Ellis, pull you in. Reyes is fuming, says you're overstepping, but the captain's crediting the K9 program. Vasquez unclipped Rex's lead inside the bays, the door sealing with a hydraulic sigh. It's the bond that flagged it, not me. Systems learning, but slow. Afternoon brought mandatory sensitivity training, protocol refresh on chain integrity, ironic in the wake of the breach. The auditorium filled again, projectors humming, slides detailing obedience hierarchies. Vasquez sat mid-row, Rex under the seat, his warmth a steady presence. Reyes presented, voice even, orders protect us, deviation risks all. But his eyes skipped hers, the slide on handler corroboration lingering a beat too long. Whispers circulated post-session. The warehouse tied to base contractors, rumors of insider access codes. By 1800 stand down, Vasquez walked the perimeter solo, Rex off-leash in the secure zone, his nose quartering the fence line anew. The sun dipped low, painting the chain link in gold, the gap now patched with fresh wire, weld scars gleaming. No alerts tonight, but the quiet held promise of reform sparked by one defiance, rippling through ranks. In the gathering dusk, with the base's lights flickering on like watchful eyes, Vasquez felt the shift. Her integrity, forged in silence with Rex, testing the system's edges. The trafficking shadow loomed, but the chain, once rigid, began to bend toward justice. Rex paused at the repaired fence, sitting in quiet vigil, his point a symbol of the trust that had forced reckoning. Outside the wire, the woods whispered secrets yet untold. But within the ranks, loyalty's cost clarified, one alert at a time. The warehouse raid briefing convened at 500 in the command center, a windowless bunker buried under the base's admin wing, its walls humming with the low drone of ventilation fans pulling in filtered air. Vasquez arrived early, Rex at heel, the dog's paws silent on the linoleum as they navigated the corridor's fluorescent glare. The scent of fresh brewed coffee mingled with the metallic tang of server racks, a ritual anchor in the pre-dawn hush. She secured Rex to a post outside the door, his alert eyes tracking her until the panel slid shut with a pneumatic whisper. Inside, the room was a grid of folding tables laden with maps, laptops, and encrypted drives, illuminated by tactical screens casting blue hues on the assembled faces. Reyes at the head, Ellis to his right, Kowalski and a half-dozen federal agents in plain clothes flanking the edges. Vasquez took a seat mid-table, her utilities starched, notepad flipped open. The air held a charged stillness, radios muted, the only sound the captain's stylus tapping against his tablet. Task Force lead. Ellis began, nodding to a stern-faced DEA liaison named Agent Torres, her badge glinting under the lights. Warehouse on the district fringe, shell company facade, but intel ties it to the sedan's plates. Fentanyl precursors, distribution hub. Base perimeter breach suggests scouting for insider drops. Torres projected schematics, the beam flickering across the wall, blueprints of the facility, ingress points marked in red, the fence gaps coordinates overlaid from MP logs. "Your K9 alert initiated the vector," she said, her gaze settling on Vasquez. Glove residue matched adhesive from their packing lines. Boot prints, standard issue, could be contractor overlap. Reyes shifted, his chair creaking faintly, but he nodded approval. The motion precise. Vasquez kept her expression neutral, pen scratching notes, the print's tread pattern, the powder's chemical signature. Rex's initial point had snowballed into this. Federal eyes on a threat inches from the playground. The briefing stretched to 0700, dissecting entry tactics. No-go on K9s for the op, too volatile in urban clutter, but handlers on standby for post-raid sweeps. Vasquez. Reyes interjected as the group broke for assignments, his voice low amid the shuffle of chairs. "Your team's on containment here. Perimeter lockdown if it spills." She met his eyes, the corridor's dimmer light softening the lines of fatigue on his face. "Aye, sir." Rex's nose could corroborate on-site traces. He paused, hand on the doorframe, a rare hesitation. "Noted, but chain's federal now. Stay in lane." Outside, Rex rose as she clipped his lead, leaning briefly into her leg, a subtle press of warmth through the fabric. The base awakened around them, PT formations jogging in sync, the distant rumble of gates opening for supply runs. Vasquez led him to the kennels, the path winding past the family housing silhouette, now patrolled by doubled sentries, their boots thudding on fresh gravel. The repaired fence gleamed in the rising light, weld scars a testament to reactive repair, but the moral coil tightened in her chest. Reyes's delay on the logs, budget realock he'd claimed, had enabled the probe. Loyalty demanded silence, justice exposure. By 1000, the platoon rotated to support roles, mock scenarios in the training yard, but whispers dominated the armory breaks. Hale cornered her near the gear lockers, Luna sniffing at a discarded glove. Ironic echo. Torres pulled contractor manifests. Reyes signed off on fence waivers, says it was routine, but dates align with the sedan's first ping. His voice was a murmur under the clank of metal, eyes darting to ensure privacy. Vasquez secured her M4 in the rack, the action deliberate. "He's overseeing the review if it's oversight." Hale's scoff cut soft. "Oversight that nearly vectored dope to the playground? Your log's the linchpin, Jag's sniffing now." The revelation settled like dew on her resolve, cool and insistent. Afternoon quals shifted to joint federal drills, simulated warehouse breaches in the mock urban site. Containers rearranged to mimic the target layout. Vasquez and Rex took the detection lead, navigating tight corridors under simulated blackout, the air thick with the scent of hydraulic fluid and damp concrete. Rex quartered low, nose sifting mock residues planted by agents, fentanyl analogs, tape scraps. "Clear, right," she called, her beam sweeping shadows, but at the final mock ingress, Rex alerted hard, sat rigid, pointing at a concealed decoy bundle. Torres observed from the catwalk, radio crackling approval. "Textbook. Your bond's gold. Saved the sim from a blind spot." Reyes pulled her aside post-drill, the yard's gravel crunching under their boots as the sun beat down, heat rising in waves. Impressive work, but Hale's chatter, stamp it out, unit cohesion. His tone was even, but the furrow in his brow betrayed the strain, medals on his chest catching glints of light. Vasquez saluted, holding position. "Sir, the logs speak." Rex's alerts compounded, if the gap was flagged earlier. He exhaled sharply, glancing toward the distant warehouse district haze. It was a call. Priorities on ops quals over fence work. No malice, Master Chief. But pushing it fractures trust. The words hung, a quiet fracture in the chain's armor. She nodded, but as he turned away, Kowalski approached from the MP line, envelope in hand. Updated forensics. Boot print match, Base contractor, low clearance, had access to the gap site day before the sedan. The confirmation burned, tying negligence to potential complicity. Vasquez pocketed it, Rex whining low at her side, sensing the tension in her grip. Protocol urged escalation to Ellis. Restraint urged waiting for the raid's clarity. Evening stand-down brought the ops execution. Monitors in the command center flickering with live feeds from the task force's assault. Vasquez watched from the back row, Rex curled under her chair, his breathing synced to the tension on screen. Breach at 2000. Flashbangs popping silent through speakers, agents stacking on doors, the warehouse's fluorescent bursts revealing pallets of precursors, tape machines humming empty now. No shots, clean takedown. 3 arrests, including the contractor from the print. Torres's voice crackled over comms. Secured. Residue sweeps inbound. Request K9 corroboration. Reyes authorized it at 2100. The platoon, mobilizing under floodlights, the base's perimeter lights casting long shadows as they convoyed out. Vasquez rode shotgun in the lead Humvee. Rex harnessed in the rear, his nose questing the air vents. The warehouse loomed industrial and stark, chain-link perimeter echoing the base's own, floodlit by task force rigs. They deployed at 2130. Rex first through the cordon, nose low in the vast storage bays, the air heavy with chemical residue and diesel exhaust. He traced paths methodically, pausing at a loading dock scar, sitting pointed at faint tire marks matching the sedan's tread. Confirmed vector, Vasquez reported, her light outlining the alignment. Agents nodded, bagging samples while Torres approached, notepad in gloved hand. Your initial alert closed the loop. Without it, this hub runs another cycle. Reyes observed from the perimeter truck, arms crossed, his silhouette rigid against the night. As the sweep wrapped at 2300, he debriefed the team under the rig's harsh glow. Solid integration. K9 program shines. Vasquez logged the corroborations for command review. But in the convoy back, Hale's voice cut through the engine hum. Contractor's statement implicates the fence delay. Reyes's sign-off flagged in JAG prelims. Vasquez stared out at the passing tree line, Rex's head on her knee, the warmth a steady pulse. The raid had exposed the seam, but the reckoning loomed, institutional eyes on the chain's weak link. Her defiance, not in words, but in trust of Rex, had rippled outward, forcing reform's hand. Dawn broke as they gated in, the base quiet save for the whir of patrols. Vasquez settled Rex in his bay, the latch clicking final, her hand lingering on his collar. The trafficking shadow lifted, but the cost clarified. Careers tested, loyalties redefined. In the quiet bays, with the first light filtering through vents, one handler's conscience had bent the rigid order toward accountability, a legacy etched in alerts and silence. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Elena Vasquez reach those who still believe in honor. The morning after the raid, Joint Base Lewis McCord awoke under a slate-gray sky, the kind that pressed low over the sound like an unspoken verdict. Vasquez rose at 500, the routine unbroken, boots laced tight, utilities donned in the dim light of her quarters, the faint scent of Rex's blanket, damp fur and kibble lingering in the air. She clipped his lead in the kennel bay, the stainless steel door sliding open with a familiar hydraulic sigh. Rex rose fluidly, his body language a mirror of her resolve, alert, unyielding. The bond between them, a quiet force that had carried them through the night's sweep. By 0700, the platoon assembled in the command center's annex, a stark room of polished tables and tactical boards, the hum of encrypted comms underscoring the debrief. Captain Ellis stood at the front, sleeves rolled to his elbows, a stack of sealed reports before him. Reyes flanked him, posture rigid, his ribbons catching the overhead fluorescence. The team filled the chairs, handlers with notepads, MPs like Kowalski with forensic binders, federal agents lingering at the edges in civilian slacks. Vasquez sat mid-row. Rex settled at her feet, his ears flicking at the rustle of papers. The air held the sharp tang of marker ink and cooling coffee, a sensory anchor amid the institutional weight. Ellis cleared his throat, his voice even over the PA mic. Last night's op closed the Vector. Warehouse secured, 3 in custody, including the contractor tied to the boot prints. Fentanyl precursors confirmed. Distribution chain disrupted. He paused, gaze sweeping the room, landing briefly on Vasquez. This stemmed from a routine K9 sweep. Master Chief Vasquez's initial alert and subsequent corroborations initiated the escalation. Without it, the breach festers. Murmurs rippled, subtle nods from Hale and the handlers, Luna's tail thumping once under the table. Reyes stepped forward, his tone measured, hands clasped behind his back. The fence delay was an oversight. Budget priorities shifted to Qualls, as logged. JAG review cleared intent, but protocols tighten. All perimeter waivers now route through dual command sign-off. K9 integration expands. Dedicated sweeps for family zones quarterly. His eyes met Vasquez's, a flicker of concession in the disciplined gaze. The gold anchors on his collar steady. It wasn't apology. In their world, reform spoke louder than words. Vasquez kept her expression neutral. Pin-scratching notes, expanded rotations, handler input on maintenance logs. The public reckoning had unfolded here, in the Annex's confines, witnesses to the chain's fracture and mend. Kowalski added from his seat, voice clipped. Forensics ties the glove to the contractor's kit, residue from prior drops. Sedan's plates led us straight. Solid work, team. Torres, the DEA lead, nodded from the back, her badge clipped low. Your program's a model. We're looping in for cross-training, K9s on trafficking vectors. The debrief wrapped at 900, assignments flowing. Vasquez's team on the new family housing protocol, mentoring juniors on anomaly logging. As the room emptied, Ellis summoned her to his office, the door sealing with a soft click. Rex waited outside, pouring once at the frame before settling. Inside, the space was spare, maps pinned under glass, a single commendation frame on the wall. Ellis gestured to a chair, but she remained standing, hands at sides. Sit, Master Chief. This isn't reprimand. She complied, the vinyl creaking faintly. Sir, your logs and Rex's alerts exposed a seam. Reyes takes the hit on paper. Formal review, but no career end. The institution learns. Conscience in the chain isn't fracture, it's reinforcement. He slid a folder across the desk. Draft policy, her name cited in the preamble. Your lead on implementation. Mentorship role, train handlers on ethical escalation. Your bond with that dog? It's the standard now. Vasquez scanned the lines, the weight settling like a earned medal. Aye, sir. Loyalty starts there, human or K9. Ellis's nod was approving, the first crack of warmth in his command facade. Precisely. This reform's quiet. No headlines, just stronger seams. Dismissed. By midday, the base pulsed with adjusted rhythm. Patrols weaving through family housing. The playground's gravel paths patrolled by handlers in rotation. Vasquez led Rex on the inaugural sweep. The repaired fence humming under their scrutiny, weld scars smooth in the overcast light. Children laughed from the swings. A junior handler shadowing her. Petty Officer Ruiz, his Labrador at heel, notepad in gloved hand. Alert protocol. If Rex points, you corroborate visually, log time stamped. Chain flows up, but handler instinct flags first. Ruiz nodded, eyes on Rex's methodical quartering. The dog's nose sifting the air without pause. Understood, Master Chief, like Helmond. She glanced at him, the wind carrying the salt of the sound. Every ops Helmond in micro. Trust the bond, test the order. No lecture, just the procedural truth, etched in their shared discipline. Afternoon quals shifted to the training yard, containers rearranged for narcotic sims, the air thick with mock residues and the distant thump of rotors. Reyes observed from the platform, stopwatch idle, his presence a silent endorsement. Vasquez positioned Rex at the breach mock-up, the team forming a loose arc, Hale, Kowalski, juniors watching. "Advance!" she commanded, whistle sharp. Rex moved low, alerting clean on planted decoys, his sit precise. Ruiz mirrored with his lab, the exercise sinking like a well-drilled squad. Post-qual, Reyes approached as gear stacked in the armory, the clank of lockers punctuating the cool-down. "Vasquez, policy draft solid. Your input shapes it." His voice was low, boots scuffed from the yard's gravel. She saluted, holding the gaze. "Team effort, sir. Rex started it." He exhaled, a rare softening. "He did, and you finished. Careers bend, but integrity holds the line." The concession rippled outward. Whispers in the mess hall turned to nods of respect, Hale clapping her shoulder during chow, the tin trays scraping in unison. By evening stand-down, Vasquez walked the perimeter with Rex off-leash in the secure zone, the dusk settling cool over the pines, floodlights humming to life. The fence stood whole, no gaps. The playground's lights twinkling distant, a symbol of lives shielded. Her tablet pinged, JAG closure on the review, commendation pending for K9 handlers. The trafficking shadow had lifted, not through heroics, but through persistent alerts and quiet defiance. In the kennel bays, as she latched Rex's enclosure, his tail thumped once, eyes locking on hers in the dim glow. The bond remained unbreakable, now a cornerstone for the unit's legacy, mentorship forged in the wake of one tire track, one point in silence. Vasquez stepped out into the night, the base's rhythm steady, boots on concrete, radios whispering orders. Her integrity had sparked reform, bending the rigid chain toward justice, a transformation etched in protocol and trust. Careers endured, reputations mended, and the institution, once fractured, stood stronger, loyalty's quiet victory in the ranks. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of a car stopped near the playground. Minutes later, the SEAL's K9 pointed to a tire track in silence. See you in the next one.